The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mindgarden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
Welcome to season 14 of the Sandy and Toddcast. She is Sandy.
He is Todd.
And we are here to get back into another season of sitting around, talking about shit we enjoy. And that's about it.
And bringing everybody along for the ride.
That's right. How was your holiday season?
It was quiet. It was good. It was... I got my Chinese food on Christmas, which was the big deal for me.
You know, I wanted to do that this year, and we didn't, and I'm not happy about that.
Oh, see, and you should be unhappy, Todd, because it is the one time of year when I get to eat Chinese food. I mean, I could eat it any day, but, you know, being diabetic and everything, it's sort of become my tradition that I pig out on Chinese food on Christmas. So what did you do instead?
Kind of a somewhat traditional Christmas thing.
Did you really?
Well, kind of. I was kind of forced into it. We won't get into that at all. But the
season.
The holidays were
I have been on a weird journey this year. After my mom passed the end of May, I've just sort of been going through that grieving process, but just kind of feeling just different about everything. It makes no sense, but I guess to some people it might make sense, you know? So I just have my thoughts. I took the summer off, consciously or unconsciously, I'm not really sure, but I took the summer off from doing a lot of cemetery work. A lot of that kind of paranormal stuff, just sort of took it off. Maybe to just remove myself from the thought process for a little while. Now I know we talked about last season, we talked about a few spirit box sessions that I did trying to contact my mom and everything, which I was successful at. But now I'm sort of in that place where I'm ready to go. And Dave and I did a bonus episode a few weeks ago. We were talking about Dalen Spratt from the Ghost Brothers. I know you love the Ghost Brothers too.
I do.
I love the Ghost Brothers. And Dalen has his own YouTube channel with his name, Dalen Spratt. And he goes around to cemeteries and he speaks to any of the spirits in the cemetery. He gives them, I have to give him so many kudos. He goes with a lot of respect. And I kind of laughed when I watched the first video, because the thing that I always say when I go to a cemetery, I come in peace, love, and respect. And what does he say when he goes to a cemetery? I come in peace, love, and respect. So Dave and I have been watching it quite a bit, and it's sort of gotten me going. He does spirit box sessions, which is something that I haven't really done in the cemeteries. I use the K2. I use digital recorder. I use the Melmeter. But I've never really used the spirit box. So it kind of got me all hyped up for that. So I am ready to go now this summer. And I might do a few videos of doing it. And again, it's not investigating. We don't investigate. We don't have a crew. There's no group of us. It's Dave and I going to the cemeteries to sort of acknowledge and bring to light the stories, give the spirits the opportunity to tell their stories, because as we've said before, you know, you die two deaths. First death is when your physical body passes away. The second one is the last time someone says your name. And so we just like to tell stories. And so even though I was in that weird sort of transition period over the summer, I'm now ready to go. Like, I want to try new things. And losing Trey 2 years ago, losing my mother last May has really got me in a place where I'm even more determined to be able to tell the stories. So that's where I am. So our bringing it back, our holidays are always very quiet. We kind of spend them with just us most of the time. But now I'm ready to go. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this year.
I have not really investigated. I think I went out and did a couple of small cemetery things in the last year, but I have not investigated for quite some time. And I'm looking forward to going to Gettysburg with you in June.
Oh, yes.
And, we'll investigate there and see what we come up with. I don't know how much more of that I'm going to do for a number of reasons, but mainly just because I don't know. I just feel like there's a part of me now that my parents are gone. There's a long stretch in my life between November and February that's just full of all these memories and stories of my family and sickness and death and birthdays and burial days and all that. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I have it in me to care about somebody else's story enough to go and do that.
I get it.
Yeah.
I do. I get it. It's funny because we belong to Adirondack Park Paranormal Society.
Yep. I'm wearing my sweatshirt today.
I see it. I know with your name on it and everything.
Yep.
We do maybe 2 investigations a year. And please understand, I love doing it, and I love my group, and I love everybody there.
I would love to investigate with them. Yes.
We just did. Dave and I just met Damon and Jen. They came down here from Potsdam a few weeks ago. We met them for lunch, and they're like family.
Yep.
I love, and there is nothing in the world like being with a group of people, no matter how big or small, group of people that you love and trust when you're investigating. And I would never give that up in a million years. But if we only did 1 a year, if we skipped a year, I would be okay. Because I think that you sort of, a lot of us kind of transition into that, I don't know, peacefulness about it. It's not that, I need that thrill anymore. I need that excitement. I need all of these things answered. You sort of get to the point where you're like, when it happens, when I'm given this opportunity, I'm given this opportunity.
Right. You're not searching for it.
Right. I was just going to say, you're not chasing it.
Right.
You're not chasing that opportunity. I'm certainly, Dave and I were just talking last night that we hope that this year we'll be able to get a nice large scale investigation to be able to get back up to Saranac Lake and do an investigation with everybody, or Potsdam for that matter. Or if an opportunity presents itself down here where we are, a few hours south, I welcome that wholeheartedly. But there's just almost like a peacefulness now, an acceptance of what will be, will be. And I think that I'm at that place now where I'm ready to just say, you know what? I want to do this for these spirits. I want to give them that acknowledgement, and it's just going to happen in its own time. It's just going to be that flow, and what happens. It's not a searching for that stuff.
If it comes to me, right? If an opportunity comes, great. Yep. But I'm not going to search out to go to the latest, greatest. I did a radio show this past week or the week before or something like that. And somebody was asking me, like, I totally forgot what I was going to say. I just totally forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, I don't, there has to be really a reason for me to want to do it. Like, it's either got to come to me, or it's got to be an event where, like, I'm coming to see you in June, so we're going to do it together.
Yes.
Or something presents itself as an opportunity to investigate. But I'm not going to sit here and go, okay, I'm going to contact this place and see if I can go there. I'm going to go. I don't want to do that anymore.
And I think that two things. Number one, I think that that's a maturity as an investigator. I think that that's a maturing process in the investigating field, is knowing that you don't have to be investigating a location every single weekend or twice a month or once a month. It's, believe me, I've had enough experiences that I know without a shadow of a doubt that there's a lot more going on. But I've gotten to the point where I realize that I don't have to know all of the answers. I don't have to know every single answer to the universe. Let me just take it as it comes. And if I'm enlightened, then I'm enlightened. Now, number two, though, one thing that's funny about Gettysburg is that it just happens to you. Like, things will just happen. You don't have to have even equipment. You'll just, last year, well, it wasn't last summer, it was the summer before when we were there. I'm just standing there and I hear the rebel yell. I'm just standing in a certain spot and something happens. It will happen to you whether you're searching for it or not. And that's the beauty of a place like Gettysburg. Investigating, we will have a ball because it's just a place that you can't miss it. It's so large, and people literally in Gettysburg have monuments in their backyard and side yard and front yard. I mean, you're living, you're walking, you're breathing, you're eating dinner on the battlefield. Everything is the battlefield. It's an amazing place, and I honestly cannot wait to share it with you. When Deej and I, from Digging with Deej, Deb, she and I met up a couple summers ago in Gettysburg, and we were just doing our little mini, nothing high, big equipment. We just had, our little equipment. We were at Sachs Bridge, and we had that full-on conversation, and it's just one of the most bonding, unbelievable experiences that you can have. So it's very exciting to me to be able to share that with people that I care about. So that leads me into this little side project we're going to have in June, Centralia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So we were both kind of talking about, I think you sent me something about Centralia, didn't you?
I watched a video on that. Yep.
Yes. And I had seen it. Jason Hawes did a video down there not too long ago. And I didn't know this, but the movie Silent Hill was actually partially based off of Centralia, Pennsylvania. So I thought, oh, that would be cool. So I think what we're going to do is the last day that we're down in Gettysburg, you guys come up with, you guys drive separately, but come up with us. And then it's not that far off of Route 81. It's like 10 minutes off Route 81. And then you can continue on after we visit to Oshkosh. And then we'll just head north back home. So I wanted to share with everybody exactly what Centralia is and where, because it's such a cool thing and such a cool kind of, I don't know, eerie.
Definitely eerie. I think we talked a little bit about it last season, but for those of you who kind of missed it, here's a kind of a recap of the story about it.
Yeah. So Centralia, this is so weird. And I'm just going to like really condense it into a few sentences. But up until 1980, which in 1980, the Centralia is just this very small town. It's a little bit northwest of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Small town America in Pennsylvania. And it had a population of 1,000 people in 1980. In 2020, the population, and now the population of Centralia is 5. Now, why would that happen? Well, many of the North American tribes in that area sold that land that makes up Centralia to colonial agents back in 1749 for very, very little money. And so eventually the colonists realized that there was mining to be had. And they started mining down under the town of Centralia. And there was coal down there, and there was a railroad. I mean, it was just a booming place. So the first 2 mines in Centralia opened in 1856, the Locust Run Mine and the Coal Ridge Mine. And then there were some more mines that came in the mid to late 1800s as well. And around 1980, now let me see if, and I'm dumbing this down for myself immensely, but it was really booming. And then around 1980, some of the mines underneath caught on fire.
So do you know how they caught on fire?
Do you?
Yeah. So they were having issues with trash in their community, where to go with it, where to put it, all that. And the town board or the people who are in the know said, hey, we've got these empty mine holes. Let's just throw some of the trash in there and then we'll start it on fire. And without thinking about it, they started the coal in the ground on fire, and it has been burning ever since. They could not figure out why. The fires kept coming back. So the trash would burn, they'd go put it out, and then a couple days later, it would start burning again. And they couldn't figure out why till they realized, well, there's still coal in these tunnels and mines underneath the ground. And so basically, under the ground of this city, and now beyond the city, because it's continuing to burn today, these fires continue.
Yeah, and it's interesting because apparently right around 1980, groups of people started moving out. It doesn't seem like they were forced as much as they were just told, look, you're going to, be taking huge risks by staying here. And so little by little, this town is essentially burning from underneath.
Yep. And it's actually burned now beyond the city limits. So underneath is now all burned out, but it's too late.
Right.
Everything is kind of done. And there were stories of like young kids playing, and then all of a sudden the ground would actually cave under them, and they would fall into these pits and stuff because it was so unsteady. It's
actually really strange. And I looked up some questions because I'm like, all right, well, if we're going to visit it, we should know what we're in for. And one of the questions I saw was, is it legal to explore Centralia, Pennsylvania? It is actually legal. There's nothing illegal about going. You just should be really careful if you go, because at any time something could happen, but you don't really hear about things happening. So at this point, I'd say we're still fairly safe. I know many people go and check it out. It literally is. I saw a picture the other day online of Centralia in like 1980 and Centralia today, like the main drag.
Yeah.
And it literally is like there's nothing there.
It's
Even
gone.
The buildings are gone.
Even the highway that takes you to Centralia, they actually closed, and people were still using it. So they brought in all this dirt and covered up the highway. So you can't use that anymore to get there. It later became a graffiti highway where people would do graffiti on it while they were walking, and they completely covered it up.
And I'm pretty excited about this because this will be my first ever, like, sort of, I don't know if you'd actually call it urban exploring, but my first, like, or, actually intentional urban exploring. I'm not talking about, the times that I wander off and do things I shouldn't do. But
that came up in that came up in the conversation. By the way, I think that's what I was going to try and talk about earlier. Was I brought up the fact that you walked through a mist on the radio show.
Yes,
that's what I was going to bring up. Is we were talking about you and somebody, and he said, what's a black mist? And I said, well, it could be something trying to form itself. But if you're like Sandy from the Sandy and Toddcast, you'll just walk right into it.
Which, by the way, great plug. Great plug. You've only been on with Pete like 8 million times, and this is the first time you actually got to, talked about us.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. That was really cool. So great plug. And do you want to give Pete a plug?
No, Pete doesn't. Just kidding. If you want to check out his page, it's Nightlight, Nitelite, with Pete Schwaba, and I'm not even going to spell his last name. So
you just have to guess.
Yep. Good luck with that one.
So they say that the fires are going to continue burning for a really, really long time there. And, one thing I did see, I want to make it a point that we do this, is there is a cemetery there. And eventually, this is really sad, but eventually, from what I understand, that cemetery is going to be highly affected. It's already starting to get close to it, and it's going to be highly affected by it. And I feel so bad for the spirits and the families of the people who are buried there. So I would really like to visit there. Yeah. And maybe pay our respects.
That might be interesting to roll some tape and stuff on that.
I think so. Well, we're going to do plenty of stuff while we're down in the Gettysburg, Centralia.
These fires are actually on the way to another town, which could end up in the same situation as Centralia. So that is something to keep in mind. But to think that the town people, the town board, the city council, whoever said, yeah, let's just throw it in that cave over there, that mine cave, and we'll burn it, and not have the sense to realize. And then for a long time, they wouldn't come clean with it. They wouldn't tell people what was really going on, but people were smelling fumes. Again, these big holes were opening up in people's backyards. They had to basically, in parts of the city where there were less people, they would have to put pipes in the ground to let the smoke out, because underneath the ground, all this coal was burning. I mean, and no, I don't think anybody's really stepped up and said, hey, we screwed up. Sorry about this. I don't think that's ever happened for the people who live there.
Now, just imagine these people who have just up and left, and what kind of money did they lose? Because you can't sell your home. So now what?
Right.
I don't know how they transitioned out. I can't even begin to guess, but it's such a mess. And you hear about, we have up here, I don't know if you guys have any out in Wisconsin, Todd, but here in New York State, we have several sort of quote unquote ghost towns. There's one called Happy Valley that's just kind of in the Syracuse area.
Obviously not happy anymore.
Not happy. But, and there are whole neighborhoods where developers have come in and said, we want to build here. We're going to, buy your neighborhood. We'll buy your home. And so there's entire neighborhoods that are just sitting there empty with homes and, all kinds of stuff like that. So we have things like that. But there's like an obvious reason behind that. And people have the choice. I saw something online not long ago about one area around Syracuse where there were a few holdouts. And so there's basically like 2 houses of families and everything around them is empty and decaying.
Here in Oshkosh, they wanted to build a new school. So they bought up a bunch of properties to put the school up, but somebody didn't want to sell. And so the school is literally built around that house and that lot. It's ridiculous.
We see that up here. You'll see one house, on a major highway, and there'll be shopping areas all around it, but there's that one home that's still there. As a matter of fact, there's a town called Fayetteville, not about, 45, 50 minutes from us. And we go out there shopping all the time. And for years, there was one home right next to this huge shopping center. And they finally must have sold it because it's now gone. But it was there for years and years. And you think, what are they holding out for? Are they waiting for like a certain crazy price? Are they just refusing to completely sell it? I don't know.
I know a lot of times cities come in and they say, well, we want to build this area up. We're going to buy your property. And they always come in lower than, what you could sell the house for if it stayed at home. So I think, people are like, listen, here's the thing. The other thing that I feel very strongly about is we as human beings can only get fucked over so long before we say,
right.
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. I mean, and so I think a lot of people do feel that way in situations like this.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be very interesting to go from Gettysburg and getting that vibe to Centralia, because I bet whether there's necessarily entities hanging out, there is certainly energy there that we're going to pick up on. And I'm very interested in that. So, that's something I'm excited about. That is something that I feel like I want to go do.
Well, it's a study. It's a study in the different energies that imagine the energy that we're going to experience in Centralia. I mean, that's going to run the gamut of everything. And then to visit the cemetery there, I think is going to be an experience in and of itself. Gettysburg is a huge experience. Every time we leave Gettysburg, I'm both at peace and I'm just so exhausted because there's so much there. So it's going to be fascinating to go from one type of energy and experience to another type of energy and experience and really see the difference between those two.
Looking forward to it.
Similar, but very different.
Yeah.
Me too. Really excited about that. And it's not that far away, so it'll be cool. And we'll do lots of videos and lots of stuff and bringing down the whole gamut of different equipment that we can use and just using ourselves.
Yeah.
And I told you there's a lot of times that I've experienced things with my eyes and ears and spidey sense that, you don't need equipment for in Gettysburg. It's right there for the taking. So
I think this season people are going to just get more of us discussing things. There's not necessarily going to be a topic this season, but I think that's okay.
Oh. And me too. And questions always welcome.
Yep.
I love getting questions from everybody or thoughts, opinions, something you hear us talk about and you want to weigh in on it, go for it. We're always excited about that. So
cool. Well, we appreciate you listening in and sticking around for season 14. You never know. I mean, at some point this podcast will go, belly up and we won't do it anymore. But until then, we hope you continue to enjoy it. So until next time, bye.
Bye.
We make podcasting easy. Mindgarden Media can get you going on your very own podcast. With many years in the broadcast and audio industry, Mindgarden Media can edit, fully produce, and provide all the web distribution services. We're podcasters too, so we'll guide you every step of the way to a professional sounding podcast production. For information, email the Mindgarden Media at gmail.com, the Mindgarden Media at gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook.